They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I prefer mine piping hot with a side of sweet irony. When Richard Blackwood handed my promotion to his incompetent son, he thought he was protecting his family legacy. Instead, he just handed me the keys to his destruction. My name is Catherine Mitchell, and I'm about to tell you how I turned the most devastating 48 hours of my career into the sweetest revenge story you'll ever hear. 3 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice at Blackwood Financial Services came crashing down in a single boardroom meeting. But what rose from those ashes was something far more powerful than Richard could have ever imagined. I had been with Blackwood Financial Services for 3 years, climbing the corporate ladder with the determination of someone who knew exactly what she wanted. At 28, I was the youngest senior analyst in the company's history, and I had my sights set on the Vice President of Strategic Development position that had just opened up. It was the promotion I'd been working toward since my first day at the firm. The position was perfect for me. I had spearheaded the development of our new risk assessment protocols, brought in over $12 million in new accounts, and had a track record that spoke for itself. My colleagues respected me, my clients trusted me, and I had already begun mentally redecorating the corner office that would soon be mine. Richard Blackwood, the company's founder and CEO, had always been cordial to me. He was a man in his early 60s with silver hair and an imposing presence that commanded respect in every room he entered. His family had built Blackwood Financial from the ground up, and he took pride in maintaining what he called the family tradition of excellence. The morning of the announcement, I arrived at the office earlier than usual, my stomach fluttering with a mixture of excitement and nerves. I had prepared for this moment for months, imagining how I would graciously accept the promotion and outline my vision for the department's future. I even had a speech prepared, though I hoped I wouldn't need it. The conference room was packed when I walked in. All the senior staff were there, along with several department heads. Richard stood at the head of the table, his expression unreadable as he surveyed the room. When his eyes met mine, I gave him a confident nod, which he returned with what I thought was an approving smile. "Thank you all for being here," Richard began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded boardrooms for decades. "As you know, we're here to announce the new Vice President of Strategic Development, a position crucial to our continued growth and success." My heart pounded as I straightened in my chair. This was it. 3 years of hard work were about to pay off. "After careful consideration," Richard continued, "I'm pleased to announce that the position will be filled by someone who embodies the values and vision of Blackwood Financial. Someone who understands not just our business, but our culture and our commitment to excellence." I held my breath, preparing to stand and accept the position with the grace and professionalism that had gotten me this far. Please join me in congratulating Marcus Blackwood on his promotion to Vice President of Strategic Development. The words hit me like a physical blow. Marcus Blackwood, Richard's son, the same Marcus who had joined the company just 18 months ago as a junior analyst, who had never closed a deal worth more than $50,000, who spent more time on social media than studying market reports, who had been handed everything in life without ever having to earn it. The room erupted in polite applause, but I barely heard it over the roaring in my ears. I watched in stunned silence as Marcus stood up, his boyish face splitting into a grin that made my stomach turn. He was 26, 2 years younger than me, with the soft features of someone who had never faced real adversity. His designer suit probably cost more than I made in a month, and his confidence came from knowing that his last name was his greatest asset. "Thank you, Dad," Marcus said, his voice carrying a smugness that made my hands clench into fists under the table. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. I'm excited to take on this new challenge and continue building on the foundation that this company has established." Foundation. The word was laughable coming from someone who had never laid a single brick in building anything. Every success Marcus had achieved at Blackwood Financial had been handed to him on a silver platter. From the clients who took meetings with him as a favor to his father, to the deals that other analysts had set up for him to close. As the meeting continued, I felt as though I was watching everything unfold from outside my body. Richard outlined Marcus's impressive qualifications, which included his MBA from an Ivy League school that his family had donated millions to, his natural leadership abilities, and his deep understanding of the company's vision. Not once did he mention the $12 million in new business I had brought in, or the risk assessment protocols I had developed, or the fact that I had consistently outperformed every other analyst in the department. When the meeting finally ended, I remained seated as my colleagues filed out, offering congratulations to Marcus and polite nods to me. Some of them looked uncomfortable, clearly understanding that the better candidate had been passed over. But none of them said anything. This was corporate politics at its finest, and everyone knew better than to question the boss's decision, especially when it involved his son. Marcus approached me as I gathered my things, his expression a mixture of false humility and barely contained triumph. "Catherine, I hope there are no hard feelings," he said, extending his hand. "I'm really looking forward to working with you in my new role. I know you were probably expecting this promotion, but I hope you understand that sometimes these decisions are about more than just numbers and performance metrics." I looked at his outstretched hand for a long moment before standing up and walking past him without a word. The last thing I was going to do was shake hands with the person who had just stolen my future. Richard was waiting for me in the hallway, his expression carefully neutral. "Catherine, I'd like to see you in my office." I followed him silently, my mind racing with 1,000 different responses to what had just happened. His office was exactly what you would expect from a man of his position: dark wood paneling, expensive artwork, and photographs of him with various political figures and business leaders. The wall behind his desk was covered with awards and certificates, testament to decades of success in the financial industry. "Please, have a seat," Richard said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs across from his desk. He settled into his own chair with the practiced ease of someone who had conducted thousands of similar conversations over the years. "I imagine you're disappointed," he began, his tone carefully measured. "And I understand that. You've done excellent work for this company, and I want you to know that your contributions haven't gone unnoticed." But apparently they haven't been valued either," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Richard's expression tightened slightly. "Catherine, I need you to understand something. This company isn't just a business to me. It's my legacy. It's something I'm building for my family. For my son. Marcus may not have your experience, but he has something equally valuable. He has skin in the game. His success is tied to the success of this company in ways that yours, frankly, never can be." The casual dismissal of 3 years of my life stung more than I expected. So merit doesn't matter, performance doesn't matter. The fact that I've brought in more business than any other analyst in the company doesn't matter. "It matters," Richard said, leaning forward. "It matters a great deal. But it's not the only thing that matters. Marcus needs this opportunity to prove himself, to grow into the leader I know he can become. You're talented, Catherine. But you're not family. At the end of the day, that distinction matters in a family business." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I see. So no matter how hard I work, no matter how much I achieve, I'll always be limited by the fact that I don't share your last name." "That's not what I'm saying," Richard protested, but his tone suggested otherwise. "I'm saying that different people bring different things to the table. Marcus brings continuity, stability, and a long-term commitment to this company's success. You bring talent and drive, which are valuable, but they're not everything." I stood up, my decision crystallizing with startling clarity. "You're right, Mr. Blackwood, I do bring talent and drive. And I've just decided to take both of those things somewhere they'll be appreciated." Richard's expression shifted to concern. "Catherine, let's not be hasty. I understand you're upset, but walking away from everything you've built here would be a mistake. There will be other opportunities for advancement." "When?" "When Marcus decides he doesn't want to be CEO anymore. When your grandchildren are old enough to take over." "No, thank you. I'm not interested in being a placeholder in someone else's family business." "Think about what you're saying," Richard said, his voice taking on a harder edge. "You're talking about throwing away 3 years of your career over one disappointment. That's not the smart, strategic thinking I've come to expect from you." On the contrary, I replied, gathering my purse and heading for the door. This is the smartest strategic decision I've ever made. I'm cutting my losses and investing in a company that values performance over pedigree. As I reached for the door handle, Richard's voice stopped me. Catherine, I hope you'll reconsider, but if you do decide to leave, I trust you'll honor your contractual obligations regarding client confidentiality and non-compete agreements. I turned back to face him, and for the first time since entering his office, I smiled. Of course, Mr. Blackwood, I'm nothing if not professional. The walk back to my office felt like a death march. My colleagues tried to avoid eye contact, clearly sensing the tension radiating from me. Some of them probably thought I was being dramatic, that I should have graciously accepted the decision and waited for the next opportunity. But they didn't understand what I understood. In a family business, there would never be a next opportunity. Not for me. I spent the rest of the day mechanically going through my tasks, responding to emails, and reviewing reports. On the surface, I appeared to be handling the situation with professional composure. But inside, I was planning. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I had made several phone calls and sent a handful of carefully worded emails. The first person I called was James Morrison, a former colleague who had left Blackwood Financial 2 years earlier to join Sterling and Associates, one of our biggest competitors. James had always been impressed with my work, and we had maintained a friendly relationship after his departure. Catherine, James's voice was warm when he answered. What a pleasant surprise. How are things at the old firm? Complicated, I replied, choosing my words carefully. I'm actually calling because I'm exploring new opportunities. I don't suppose Sterling is looking for someone with my skill set? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Are you serious? Because if you are, I think Patricia Sterling would be very interested in talking to you. She's been looking for someone to head up a new strategic development division. Patricia Sterling was the founder and CEO of Sterling and Associates, a woman who had built her company from nothing and had earned a reputation as one of the most brilliant minds in the industry. Unlike Richard Blackwood, she had no family to pass the business to, and she was known for promoting based on merit rather than connections. I'm very serious, I said. Would you be able to arrange a meeting? I'll call her right now, James promised. She's been looking for someone exactly like you. This could be perfect timing. My next call was to David Chen, the head of strategic development at Morrison Financial Group. David and I had collaborated on several deals over the years, and I knew he respected my work. Morrison Financial was smaller than Blackwood, but they were growing rapidly and had a reputation for treating their employees well. Catherine, it's great to hear from you, David said when I reached him. What can I do for you? I'm considering a career change, I said. I was wondering if you might have any openings that would be a good fit for my experience. Are you kidding? We've been trying to recruit you for months. I actually have a position that would be perfect for you. When can you come in for an interview? By the end of the day, I had preliminary interviews scheduled with 3 different companies, all of which were eager to speak with me. It was a stark contrast to the message I'd received from Richard Blackwood, that my talents were valuable, but not valuable enough to earn me the respect and opportunities I deserved. The next morning, I arrived at the office with a new sense of purpose. I had spent the previous evening researching my options and preparing for the interviews I had scheduled. My resignation letter was drafted and ready to send, but I wanted to time it perfectly. Marcus was already in what had been my target office, rearranging the furniture and hanging up his diplomas. The sight of him settling into the role that should have been mine made my chest tighten with anger. But I pushed the emotion down. I had work to do. The most important item on my agenda was the Henderson Industries deal. Henderson was a manufacturing company looking to expand their operations internationally, and they needed a financial services firm to help them navigate the complex world of international banking and currency exchange. It was a $30 million deal that would be the largest in Blackwood Financial's history. I had been working on the Henderson deal for 6 months, building relationships with their executive team, and developing a comprehensive strategy for their expansion. The deal was set to close within the next 2 weeks, and my success in securing it had been one of the key factors I'd expected to leverage in my promotion. Now, Of course, Marcus would get credit for closing the deal I had spent months developing. It was exactly the kind of injustice that made my blood boil. But it also presented an opportunity. I spent the morning reviewing every aspect of the Henderson deal, from the initial contact strategy to the final terms we had negotiated. I had copies of all the key documents, knew every stakeholder involved, and understood the client's needs better than anyone else at the firm. Most importantly, I had developed a personal relationship with Tom Henderson, the company's CEO, and his daughter Lisa, who served as the chief financial officer. The Henderson family had built their company the same way I was building my career, through hard work, smart decisions, and a refusal to accept limitations. They understood the value of merit over connections, and they had specifically requested to work with me throughout the entire process. At lunch, I called Tom Henderson. "Catherine." Tom's voice was enthusiastic. "I was just thinking about you. Lisa and I were reviewing the final terms of our agreement, and we're really impressed with the work you've done. This deal is going to transform our business." "Thank you, Tom. I'm calling because I need to let you know about a change in my situation. I'm leaving Blackwood Financial to pursue a new opportunity." There was a long pause. "What?" "But you're our primary contact. You're the one who's been managing this entire process." "I know. And I'm sorry for the timing. The company will assign someone else to handle the closing. But I wanted to hear it from me first." "Who's taking over?" Tom asked, his tone skeptical. "Marcus Blackwood, the CEO's son. He's been promoted to Vice President of Strategic Development." Another pause. "Catherine, I have to be honest with you. We've been working with you for 6 months because we trust your expertise and your judgment. We don't know this Marcus person, and we're not comfortable moving forward with someone we've never worked with, especially on a deal of this magnitude." This was exactly what I had been hoping to hear. "I understand your concerns, Tom. If it helps, I should have a new position finalized within the next few days. If you're willing to wait, I might be able to offer you the same level of service at my new firm." "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" Tom asked. "We need to have this deal closed by the end of the month." "That shouldn't be a problem," I assured him. "I'm interviewing with several firms that have the resources and expertise to handle a deal of this size. I'll keep you updated on my progress." "Please do. And Catherine, congratulations on your new opportunity. Any firm that gets you is going to be very lucky." After ending the call with Tom, I felt a surge of satisfaction. The Henderson deal was my leverage, my ace in the hole. Richard Blackwood thought he could pass me over for his son without consequences. But he was about to learn that talent and relationships couldn't be transferred as easily as job titles. My interview with Patricia Sterling was scheduled for the following day. I had researched her extensively, and I was impressed by what I found. She had started Sterling & Associates 15 years earlier with nothing but a business plan and a determination to succeed. The company had grown from a small consultancy to a major player in the financial services industry, and Patricia had earned recognition as one of the most innovative leaders in the field. That evening, I worked late, putting the finishing touches on my resignation letter and preparing for my interview. I wanted to make sure I was ready to move quickly once I made my decision. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling & Associates 30 minutes early, using the extra time to observe the office culture and get a feel for the company's atmosphere. The offices were modern and elegant, with an open floor plan that encouraged collaboration. The employees I observed seemed engaged and energetic, a stark contrast to the stifling formality of Blackwood Financial. Patricia Sterling was exactly what I had expected, a woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and an aura of confidence that filled the room. She was professionally dressed, but not ostentatious, and she had the kind of presence that commanded respect without demanding it. "Catherine," she said, standing to greet me, "I've heard wonderful things about you from James. Please, have a seat." Her office was impressive but not overwhelming, with awards and certificates displayed tastefully alongside photographs of her with various business leaders and politicians. What struck me most was a framed quote on her desk. "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, I said, settling into the chair across from her desk. I understand you're looking for someone to head up a new strategic development division. I am, Patricia confirmed. But before we talk about the position, I'd like to know what's prompted you to leave Blackwood Financial. From what I understand, you've been quite successful there. I had prepared for this question, knowing that it would be one of the first things she would ask. I've reached the point where I need to make a decision about my future. I've achieved everything I can at Blackwood, and I'm looking for an opportunity to take on greater challenges and responsibilities. Patricia studied me for a moment. That's a very diplomatic answer, Catherine, but I have a feeling there's more to the story. Are you comfortable sharing what really happened? Her directness was refreshing after years of corporate doublespeak. I was passed over for a promotion that I had earned in favor of the CEO's son. It became clear that advancement opportunities would be limited by factors beyond my control. Ah, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair. The classic family business dilemma. I've seen it destroy many talented careers. So you're looking for a company that values merit over pedigree? Exactly. Well, you've come to the right place. I built this company because I was tired of watching good people get passed over for the wrong reasons. Here, advancement is based on performance, period. We spent the next hour discussing the strategic development position and my vision for the department. Patricia was impressed by my track record and my ideas for growing the division. More importantly, she understood the value of the relationships I'd built over the years. I'm prepared to offer you the position, she said as our meeting wound down. The salary is competitive, and you'll have full authority to build the department as you see fit. When would you be available to start? I need to give my current employer appropriate notice, I said. But I could start as early as next week. Excellent. I'll have our HR department prepare the paperwork. Welcome to Sterling and Associates, Catherine. As I left Patricia's office, I felt a sense of excitement that I hadn't experienced in years. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I'd been hoping for. And Patricia Sterling was the kind of leader I wanted to work for. But more than that, I now had the platform I needed to execute my plan. I returned to Blackwood Financial and spent the rest of the day tying up loose ends and preparing for my departure. At 5 o'clock, I sent my resignation letter to Richard Blackwood via email, with copies to HR and Marcus. The letter was professional and courteous, giving 2 weeks' notice and offering to assist with the transition of my responsibilities. Richard's response came within minutes. Catherine, I'm disappointed by your decision, but I respect your right to pursue new opportunities. Please see me first thing tomorrow morning to discuss the transition process. I spent that evening at home, reviewing my files and preparing for what I knew would be a difficult conversation. I had copies of all my work, including detailed notes on the Henderson deal and my relationships with various clients. Everything was above board and legal. But I knew Richard would not be pleased with my decision. The next morning, I arrived at the office early and went straight to Richard's office. He was waiting for me, his expression grim. Catherine, I had hoped you would reconsider your decision overnight. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm sure, I replied. I've accepted a position with Sterling and Associates. I'll be starting as the head of their new strategic development division. Richard's face darkened. Sterling and Associates? You do realize they're one of our primary competitors? I'm aware of that, but I've reviewed my contractual obligations, and I'm not violating any non-compete agreements. I've also been careful to ensure that I'm not taking any proprietary information with me. What about the Henderson deal? Richard asked, his voice sharp. You've been working on that for months. The Henderson deal belongs to Blackwood Financial, and I'll provide a complete transition summary to whoever takes over the account. However, I should mention that I spoke with Tom Henderson yesterday, and he expressed some concerns about working with someone new at this stage of the process. Richard's expression shifted to alarm. What kind of concerns? He's nervous about bringing a new person into the deal so close to closing. He specifically mentioned that he's been working with me for 6 months and trusts my expertise. He's not comfortable with the idea of starting over with someone he's never met. You didn't encourage those concerns, did you? Richard's tone was accusatory. Of course not. I simply informed him that I was leaving the company and that someone else would be taking over the account. His reaction was his own. Richard leaned back in his chair, clearly calculating the implications. The Henderson deal was crucial to the company's growth projections for the year, and losing it would be a significant blow. I'll have Marcus reach out to Henderson immediately to reassure them about the transition, Richard said. I'm sure once they meet him, they'll be comfortable moving forward. I nodded. I'm sure you're right. Marcus has all the qualifications for the position. After all, the sarcasm in my voice wasn't lost on Richard, but he chose to ignore it. We spent the next hour going over my current projects and discussing the transition process. I was professional and thorough, providing detailed summaries of every account and ensuring that my departure would be as smooth as possible. As our meeting concluded, Richard made one final attempt to change my mind. Catherine, I want you to know that I still think you're making a mistake. You're walking away from a company with a solid reputation and a bright future. Sterling & Associates is a good firm, but they don't have the stability and resources that we offer. Perhaps, I replied, but they have something that Blackwood Financial doesn't. They value performance over pedigree. That's worth more to me than stability. I spent the rest of the day documenting my work and preparing transition materials. My colleagues were supportive but cautious, clearly understanding the political implications of my departure. Marcus made a point of stopping by my office to express his regret about my decision. I really hope this isn't about the promotion, he said, his tone carefully neutral. I'd hate to think that professional jealousy was driving your decision. It's not about jealousy, Marcus, I replied. It's about recognizing when it's time to move on. I wish you the best of luck in your new position. As the day progressed, I received several calls from clients who had heard about my departure. Most of them were supportive and wished me well, but a few expressed concern about the transition. The Henderson call was the most significant. Catherine, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, Tom Henderson said. Lisa and I have been discussing the situation, and we're really not comfortable moving forward with someone new. Is there any chance you could handle the closing from your new position? That would depend on several factors, I said carefully. I'd need to discuss it with my new employer and make sure there are no conflicts of interest. It's also possible that Blackwood Financial wouldn't be comfortable with that arrangement. What if we terminated our agreement with Blackwood and moved the deal to your new firm? Would that be possible? My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. I suppose it's possible, but it would be a significant decision. Are you sure you'd want to make that kind of change so close to closing? We're sure, Tom said firmly. This deal is too important to our company's future to risk with someone we don't know. We've been working with you for 6 months, and we trust your judgment. If you're willing to take the deal with you, we'd like to move forward with Sterling & Associates. I'll need to discuss this with my new employer, I said. Let me get back to you by the end of the week. After ending the call, I sat in my office for several minutes, processing what had just happened. Tom Henderson had just offered to move a $30 million deal to my new firm, taking it away from Blackwood Financial entirely. It was exactly the kind of consequence Richard Blackwood deserved for his decision to pass me over. I called Patricia Sterling immediately. Catherine, how are you settling in with the idea of joining our team? Patricia asked when she answered. Very well, thank you. I actually have something I need to discuss with you. One of my former clients has expressed interest in moving their business to Sterling & Associates. It's a significant account, and I want to make sure we handle it properly. What kind of account are we talking about? Henderson Industries. It's a $30 million deal that's scheduled to close within the next 2 weeks. There was a pause on the other end of the line. 30 million? Are you serious? Completely serious. They've been working with me for 6 months, and they're not comfortable transitioning to someone new at Blackwood Financial. They've asked if I can handle the closing from my new position. Catherine, this is incredible. A deal of that size would be our largest transaction this year. Are you confident they're serious about making the move? Very confident. Tom Henderson and I have built a strong relationship, and they trust my expertise. They're willing to terminate their agreement with Blackwood Financial to work with us. Then let's make it happen. I'll have our legal team review the situation to make sure we're handling everything properly. But if Henderson Industries wants to work with us, we'll make it work. I spent the rest of the week finalizing my departure from Blackwood Financial and preparing for my new position at Sterling & Associates. The transition went smoothly, with most of my colleagues wishing me well and expressing confidence in my decision. Richard's reaction to my departure was mixed. He was clearly unhappy about losing me, but he seemed confident that Marcus would be able to handle the transition. His confidence was misplaced. Marcus's first week as Vice President of Strategic Development was a disaster. He struggled with the technical aspects of the job and made several embarrassing mistakes in client meetings. His lack of experience was evident in every interaction, and several clients began expressing concerns about the company's direction. The Henderson situation came to a head on Friday afternoon. Marcus had scheduled a meeting with Tom Henderson to discuss the transition and reassure him about moving forward with Blackwood Financial. I wasn't privy to the details of the meeting, but I heard about the outcome from James Morrison, who had stayed in touch with several people at my former firm. "Catherine, you're not going to believe what happened," James said when he called me. Marcus completely botched the Henderson meeting. He showed up unprepared, couldn't answer basic questions about the deal structure, and actually tried to renegotiate terms that had already been agreed upon. What was Tom Henderson's reaction? I asked, though I could already guess. He was furious. He called Richard Blackwood directly and told him that Henderson Industries was terminating their agreement with Blackwood Financial effective immediately. He specifically said that he had no confidence in Marcus's ability to handle the deal. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. "Did Tom mention anything about where he's taking the business?" I asked. He told Richard that he was moving the deal to Sterling & Associates to work with their new head of strategic development. Richard apparently asked who that was, and Tom said it was someone he trusted completely to handle the transaction. The irony was perfect. Richard Blackwood had just learned that his decision to promote his son over me had cost him the largest deal in the company's history. The $30 million Henderson account was now going to Sterling & Associates, where I would be handling the closing personally. My first official day at Sterling & Associates was everything I'd hoped it would be. Patricia Sterling welcomed me with enthusiasm, and I was introduced to the team that would be working on the Henderson deal. The firm's resources and expertise were impressive, and I quickly realized that I had made the right decision in joining them. The Henderson deal closed 3 weeks later, generating significant revenue for Sterling & Associates and establishing me as a key player in the firm's strategic development division. Tom Henderson was thrilled with the outcome, and he immediately began discussing additional opportunities for our firms to work together. Meanwhile, the situation at Blackwood Financial continued to deteriorate. Marcus's inexperience was becoming more apparent with each passing week, and several other clients began expressing concerns about the company's direction. Richard was forced to step in and take a more active role in managing the strategic development division, effectively undermining his son's authority. The loss of the Henderson deal had serious implications for Blackwood Financial's growth projections, and the company's stock price began to decline. Industry analysts noted the firm's struggles and began questioning the wisdom of promoting inexperienced family members to key positions. 6 months after my departure, I received a call from Richard Blackwood. I was surprised to hear from him, but I was curious about what he had to say. "Catherine, I hope you're doing well at Sterling & Associates," he said, his tone notably more humble than I remembered. "I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are things at Blackwood Financial?" There was a pause. "They've been better. I'm calling because I wanted to discuss a potential opportunity. We're looking for someone to head up our strategic development division, and I think you might be interested." I almost laughed out loud. "Are you offering me Marcus's job?" "I'm offering you the position you should have had 6 months ago. I realize I made a mistake. Catherine, I let personal considerations override business judgment, and it's cost the company dearly." "What about Marcus?" I asked. "Marcus has decided to pursue other opportunities. He's realized that management isn't his strength, and he's looking for a role that's better suited to his skills." The euphemism was obvious. Marcus had been demoted or fired, and Richard was now trying to repair the damage his decision had caused. I appreciate the offer, Richard, but I'm very happy at Sterling and Associates. I have the authority and resources I need to build something significant here. I understand, Richard said, but I want you to know that if you ever change your mind, there will always be a place for you at Blackwood Financial. You're one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. And I should have recognized that sooner. Thank you for saying that, I replied. I wish you the best of luck finding the right person for the position. After ending the call, I reflected on how dramatically my situation had changed. 6 months earlier, I had been devastated by Richard's decision to pass me over for his son. Now, he was calling to offer me the position he had given to Marcus, essentially admitting that he had been wrong. The revenge was sweeter than I had ever imagined. I had not only landed a better position at a company that valued my contributions, but I had also taken one of Blackwood Financial's most important clients with me. The $30 million Henderson deal had become the foundation for Sterling and Associates' expansion into new markets, and my success had opened doors to opportunities I never would have had at Blackwood Financial. But the most satisfying aspect of the entire situation was the knowledge that I had achieved my revenge through merit and hard work, rather than manipulation or sabotage. I had simply demonstrated the value of my skills and relationships by taking them somewhere they would be appreciated. A year later, I was promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Development at Sterling and Associates, making me one of the youngest executives in the firm's history. I had built a department that was generating significant revenue and had earned recognition as one of the most innovative strategic development divisions in the industry. The Henderson Industries relationship had evolved into a strategic partnership that benefited both companies. Tom Henderson had become not just a client, but a friend, and his company's success had helped establish Sterling and Associates as a major player in the international business development market. Meanwhile, Blackwood Financial continued to struggle. The loss of the Henderson deal had been just the beginning of their problems. Several other clients had left the firm, citing concerns about the company's direction and leadership. Richard Blackwood was eventually forced to sell a controlling stake in the company to a larger firm, ending the family's control of the business they had built. Marcus Blackwood had found a position at a smaller firm where his lack of experience was less of a liability. I occasionally saw his name in industry publications, but he never achieved the success that his father had hoped for when he promoted him to Vice President of Strategic Development. The entire experience taught me valuable lessons about the importance of merit-based advancement and the dangers of nepotism in business. It also reinforced my belief that talent and hard work will ultimately be rewarded, even if not always in the way we expect. Richard Blackwood had thought he was protecting his family's legacy by promoting his son, but he had actually damaged it irreparably. His decision to prioritize family connections over merit had cost him one of his most valuable employees and one of his most important clients. 2 years after my departure from Blackwood Financial, I was attending the annual Financial Services Excellence Awards ceremony. Sterling and Associates had been nominated for several awards, including Strategic Development Firm of the Year, largely due to the success of the division I had built. As I walked through the cocktail reception, networking with industry leaders and celebrating our achievements, I spotted a familiar figure across the room. Richard Blackwood stood near the bar, looking older and more tired than I remembered. His once commanding presence seemed diminished, and the confident smile I remembered had been replaced by a weary expression. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and he nodded in acknowledgement. After a moment's hesitation, he made his way over to where I was standing. "Catherine," he said, extending his hand. "Congratulations on your nomination. I heard Sterling and Associates is having an exceptional year." "Thank you, Richard. It's good to see you." I shook his hand, noting how his grip seemed less firm than before. "I've been following your success," he continued. "The Henderson partnership has been quite impressive. Tom Henderson speaks very highly of you whenever I see him at industry events." "He's been a wonderful client and partner," I replied. "We've been able to help them achieve their international expansion goals ahead of schedule." Richard nodded, his expression thoughtful. I imagine that deal has opened many doors for you. It has. We've been able to attract several other major clients who were impressed by our work with Henderson Industries. The department has grown from just me to a team of 12 specialists. 12 people, Richard repeated, clearly calculating the implications. That's quite an operation you've built. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the crowd of industry professionals around us. Finally, Richard spoke again. Catherine, I owe you an apology. I made a decision based on personal considerations rather than business judgment, and it was wrong. You deserved that promotion. And I should have recognized your contributions properly. His admission was gratifying, but I had moved far beyond needing his validation. I appreciate you saying that, Richard, but honestly, everything worked out for the best. I'm happier and more fulfilled than I've ever been. I can see that, he said, his tone carrying a note of genuine regret. You've accomplished more in 2 years than many people do in their entire careers. Patricia Sterling is lucky to have you. She's been an incredible mentor and leader. She understands that success comes from empowering talented people, not from protecting family interests. The comment was pointed, but not cruel. Richard accepted it with a rueful smile. I've learned that lesson the hard way, he said. The company has struggled since you left. We've had to make some difficult decisions to stay competitive. I had heard through industry channels that Blackwood Financial had been acquired by a larger firm, effectively ending the family's control of the business. Richard was still involved as a senior advisor, but his role had been significantly reduced. I heard about the acquisition, I said. I'm sorry it didn't work out differently. It was probably inevitable, Richard admitted. I spent so much time trying to preserve the family legacy that I forgot the business itself was what mattered most. Marcus realized it too. He's actually doing quite well at Morrison Financial Group. He found his niche in client relations rather than strategic development. I'm glad he found something that suits him, I said. And I meant it. Marcus had been a victim of his father's ambitions as much as anyone else. He asked me to tell you that he's grateful for how professionally you handled the transition. He knew he wasn't ready for the role, but he felt pressured to take it. It was an unexpected admission, and it gave me a different perspective on the situation. Marcus hadn't been the villain in the story. He had been another casualty of poor leadership decisions. I hope he's happy in his new position, I said. He is. And Catherine, I want you to know that watching your success has been a reminder of what leadership should look like. You've built something significant at Sterling & Associates, and you've done it through merit and hard work. Just then, Patricia Sterling approached us, her face glowing with excitement. Catherine, I've been looking for you, she said. I just got word that we won Strategic Development Firm of the Year. I felt a surge of pride and excitement. The award was recognition of everything we had accomplished over the past 2 years. That's wonderful news, I said, giving her a hug. The entire team deserves this recognition. They do, but this award is largely due to your leadership. Patricia said, You've transformed our capabilities and our reputation. Richard extended his hand to Patricia. Congratulations, Patricia. You have an exceptional leader in Catherine. I certainly do. Patricia agreed. Catherine, why don't you go find the team and share the good news? I believe they're over by the silent auction. As I walked away to find my colleagues, I heard Richard say to Patricia, Take care of her. She's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. I intend to, Patricia replied. We're actually discussing a partnership track for her. She's earned it. The conversation faded as I moved through the crowd, but Richard's words stayed with me. 2 years earlier, he had told me that I wasn't family and that would always limit my opportunities at his company. Now, he was acknowledging that I had built something more valuable than family connections could ever provide. I found my team celebrating near the silent auction tables, their faces beaming with pride and excitement. These were the people who had believed in my vision and worked tirelessly to make it a reality. Unlike the political environment at Blackwood Financial, Sterling & Associates had given me the freedom to hire based on talent and potential rather than connections. "Did you hear?" called out Jennifer Walsh, my deputy director. "We won." "I heard," I said, unable to suppress my smile. "This is a team victory. Every person here contributed to this success." "Speech," someone called out, and the others quickly joined in. I looked around at the faces of my colleagues, people who had chosen to join our division because they believed in what we were building. They came from diverse backgrounds and brought different strengths to the team, but they all shared a commitment to excellence and a desire to achieve something meaningful. 2 years ago, I made a decision to leave a company that didn't value my contributions. I began. I was angry and disappointed, but I was also determined to prove that merit matters more than connections. "You've all helped me prove that point beyond any doubt." The group applauded, and I continued. "This award isn't just recognition of our financial success. It's validation of our belief that talent and hard work will ultimately be rewarded. We've built something here that goes beyond quarterly profits or annual targets. We've built a culture of excellence that attracts the best people and produces the best results." "What's next for us?" asked Michael Rodriguez, one of our senior analysts. "We keep building," I said. "We keep proving that merit-based advancement creates stronger organizations. We keep showing that diverse teams produce better results. And we keep demonstrating that when you empower talented people, they'll exceed every expectation." The celebration continued for another hour, with team members sharing stories about their favorite projects and discussing their goals for the coming year. It was exactly the kind of collaborative, supportive environment that I had hoped to create when I joined Sterling & Associates. As the evening wound down, I found myself back at the bar, reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this moment. The revenge I had initially sought had evolved into something much more meaningful, the satisfaction of building something significant and valuable. Patricia Sterling joined me at the bar, her expression thoughtful. "Quite an evening," she said. "I hope you're proud of what you've accomplished." "I am," I said. "But I'm also grateful for the opportunity you gave me. Not many leaders would have taken a chance on someone leaving their previous company under those circumstances." "The circumstances were exactly why I wanted to hire you," Patricia said. "I've seen too many talented people held back by politics and nepotism. When I heard your story, I knew you were exactly the kind of person I wanted on my team." "It worked out well for both of us," I said. "Sterling & Associates gave me the platform I needed to prove myself, and I've hopefully contributed to the firm's success." "You've done more than contribute," Patricia said. "You've transformed us. The Strategic Development Division is now one of our most profitable units, and it's attracted attention from clients and competitors alike." She paused, then continued. "Catherine, I've been thinking about our conversation regarding a partnership track. I'd like to accelerate that timeline. You've earned a seat at the leadership table, and I think it's time we made that official." The offer was everything I had hoped for when I first joined Sterling & Associates. Partnership meant not just increased compensation and prestige, but also a voice in the firm's strategic direction and a stake in its future success. "I'm honored by the offer," I said. "I'd like to discuss the details and understand what the partnership would entail." "Of course. Let's schedule a meeting for next week to go over everything. I think you'll find the terms quite attractive." As I left the awards ceremony that night, I thought about the conversation I'd had with Richard Blackwood. His acknowledgement of his mistake and his recognition of my success had provided a sense of closure that I hadn't realized I needed. The angry young woman who had stormed out of his office 2 years earlier had evolved into a confident leader who had built something meaningful. The revenge I had initially sought had become something much more valuable, the satisfaction of proving that merit and hard work would ultimately be rewarded. I had taken the rejection and disappointment that Richard's decision had caused and transformed it into motivation to achieve something greater than I had ever imagined. The Henderson deal had been just the beginning. Over the past 2 years, I had built a strategic development division that was generating significant revenue and attracting major clients. I had hired and mentored a team of talented professionals who were advancing their own careers while contributing to the firm's success. I had earned recognition as one of the most innovative leaders in the industry. But perhaps most importantly, I had proven that organizations succeed when they prioritize merit over connections, when they empower talented people regardless of their backgrounds, and when they create cultures of excellence that attract the best performers. Richard Blackwood had thought he was protecting his family's legacy by promoting his son, but he had actually damaged it by prioritizing nepotism over merit. His company had struggled and ultimately lost its independence because he had failed to recognize that business success comes from having the right people in the right positions, not from keeping power within the family. The irony was perfect. By rejecting me, Richard had forced me to seek opportunities elsewhere. And in doing so, he had lost not just a valuable employee, but also a significant client and the chance to benefit from my future success. His decision to promote Marcus had cost him far more than he could have imagined. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the lessons I had learned over the past 2 years. The most important was that setbacks and disappointments, no matter how painful, can become the catalyst for achieving something greater than we ever imagined. The key is to channel the energy from rejection and disappointment into determination and action. I had also learned that revenge, when executed through merit and hard work rather than manipulation or sabotage, can be incredibly satisfying. I had proven my worth not by tearing down Richard Blackwood or his company, but by building something better elsewhere. The success I had achieved was the best possible response to his decision to pass me over. The partnership offer from Patricia Sterling was validation of everything I had worked to achieve. It represented not just personal success, but also the triumph of merit-based advancement over nepotism and politics. It was proof that talent and hard work would ultimately be rewarded, even if not always in the way we initially expect. 6 months later, I was officially named Partner and Senior Vice President of Strategic Development at Sterling & Associates. The announcement was covered in several industry publications, and I received congratulatory messages from colleagues, clients, and competitors throughout the financial services sector. The Henderson Industries partnership had continued to grow, and Tom Henderson had become one of my strongest advocates in the industry. His referrals had brought us several other major clients, and his success story had become a case study in how the right financial services partnership could transform a company's growth trajectory. My team had expanded to 18 professionals, and we were consistently recognized as one of the most innovative strategic development divisions in the industry. We had developed new methodologies for international expansion, created risk assessment protocols that had been adopted by other firms, and established strategic partnerships that had opened new markets for our clients. The success had exceeded even my most optimistic projections when I first joined Sterling & Associates. But more than the financial rewards or professional recognition, I was proud of the culture we had built and the opportunities we had created for talented professionals to advance based on merit rather than connections. Richard Blackwood's decision to promote his son over me had seemed like a devastating setback at the time, but it had actually been the catalyst for achieving something far greater than I would have accomplished if I had stayed at Blackwood Financial. The promotion I had wanted so badly would have limited me to working within the constraints of a family business that prioritized connections over merit. Instead, I had found a platform where I could build something significant and valuable, where I could mentor and develop other talented professionals, and where I could prove that merit-based advancement creates stronger organizations and better results. The revenge was complete, but it had evolved into something much more meaningful than simply getting back at Richard Blackwood. It had become a demonstration of what was possible when talent and hard work were properly valued and supported. It had become proof that setbacks and disappointments, no matter how painful, can become the foundation for achieving something greater than we ever imagined. And perhaps most importantly, it had become a reminder that the best revenge is not just success, but success achieved through merit, hard work, and the commitment to building something meaningful that lasts.